Welcome to Jen Cares, powered by Chozen Live Podcast. Here we engage in tough talks and meaningful conversations. Each week, we feature a guest that will help us stay in the know. We're a podcast that brings the community to you every Monday at 8 p.m. on Facebook and YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook, be sure to like and follow our page. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe so that you never miss a show. Now, here's your host, Jen Cares.
Well, good evening, Chozen friends, and welcome to Jen Cares, powered by Chozen Counselors. I am your host, the founder of Chozen Counselors, a nonprofit organization that seeks to inspire, motivate, empower, and strengthen individuals and families. As always, I want to say thank you so much to each and every one of you for tuning in, for commenting, for sharing, and coming back again. I appreciate each and every one of you. I do hope that you enjoyed our January series. It was a good time. I hope that you enjoyed every guest that we had. Last week where we had Cheryl Pullins, I am really, really excited for what's to come of just trying to try something new, friends. And some new things are coming this year. But she talked about growth mindset. So that was really good. If you missed it, be sure to go back and catch it. We also had Rachel Wilson for Knowing Your Limits. We had John Bosworth for Love, Learning Music. And we had Ramona Mercer for Look Back. And our theme was Attitude of Gratitude. And friends, it was a good time. I do hope that you tuned in or shared or found something worthwhile in what it is that we're doing each Monday at 8 p.m. Tonight, we kick off our new theme of the year, rather, of the month, February. And our theme is Live, Laugh, Love, and Learn. Why? Because in this thing called life, we are always going to be living. Hopefully, we're going to laugh sometimes. Hopefully, we will experience what love is. But friends, I don't want us to stop learning, okay? I want us to keep on learning. And tonight, we're going to do stuff a little different because when things happen, you change it up and you make it work, okay? Today's guest is me. So I'm going to interview myself and work it out because tonight's theme is trauma is real. Friends, trauma is real. So let's get it started, all right? As always, I prepared some questions for me. But if you have any questions or thoughts, be sure to drop them down below. As this is February, is Black History Month, let's first kick off with our Black History Facts. Black History Month. Ethel Waters, born in Chester, Pennsylvania, an American singer and actress who frequently performed jazz, swing, and pop music on the Broadway stage and in concerts. She began her career in 1920 singing blues. Her notable recordings include Stormy Weather. That's the only part of the song I know. Okay. Waters was the second African American to be nominated for an Academy Award, the first African American to star on her own television show, and the first African American woman to be nominated for a Primetime Emmy Award. So today we give all honor to the late, the great Ethel Waters. Oh, friends, it was so fun to learn about her on today. And it was funny when I was looking her up and I saw Stormy Weather. I was like, that's the only song that I know. Well, she has some other songs. I have to listen to her because I'm really excited for all that she's doing in this world. I'm sorry, all she has done and the legacy that she has left is amazing. Friends, be sure to learn something new in this month of Black History. Actually, learn something new about Black History every day if you can. Okay? Okay. All right. So getting into it. Again, the theme for tonight is trauma is real. And our quote of the day is, trauma is a fact of life. It does not, however, have to be a life sentence. Peter Levine. Again, trauma is a fact of life. It does not, however, have to be a life sentence. And what am I talking that quote? Family trauma will happen. Unfortunately, unconsciously, consciously, and all in between. But it does not have to be a life sentence. What you've been through doesn't have to be all there is of you. How you survived it, how you can tell somebody else, if I made it, you can make it too. Friends, it does not have to be a life sentence. So what does that mean? We work to get some support. We work to get some help from those that are professionals in that area, somebody that we could talk to relax, relate, release, and release some of those things that are going on. The thing is, though, oftentimes we don't know that it was a traumatic experience. Let's talk about that. So, what is trauma, right? Trauma is when we experience something that's stressful, frightening, distressing, events that are difficult to cope with, and sometimes it's out of our control. So if a fire happens, that could be traumatic because now where am I going to live? Everything that was lost in the fire, what are we going to do? It's stressful, it's frightening, it's distressing because if your money is tied up or you're paying and surviving month to month to go through a house fire, that could be a traumatic experience. Okay, to lose a job, that can be a traumatic experience. Whether you wanted to lose it or didn't want to lose it, okay, it can be a traumatic experience. And most of us will experience an event that's considered to be traumatic. But tonight I want to talk about how it is real and again how we can get some supports for it and what it does look like. Okay, so a little while ago, I did a training with ACE Overcomers to be a facilitator for their childhood assessment where they do adverse childhood experiences. And adverse just means that something's fighting against them. So as a youth, it feels like life is life and at a different level. And life is fighting against you, but how can you survive in those situations, right? So there's 10 types of adverse childhood experiences. We have abuse. So that's emotional abuse, that's yelling, insulting, belittling, and pressuring. Friends, pause for the cause. If when I'm going through this list and you feel like you're experiencing it, let's work to get some help. If I'm going through this list and you feel like you're dishing it out, let's get some help as well, okay? And we're going to get some resources for that. All right, so emotional abuse, yelling, insulting, belittling, pressuring someone. And sometimes we can do these things ourselves. We can insult ourselves. We can yell at ourselves. We can pressure ourselves. We want to be careful in that too, okay? Then we have physical abuse, hitting, slapping, restraining. We have sexual abuse, inappropriate touching for gratification. This includes looking or taking pictures. We have neglect. So there's emotional neglect. So not providing the nurture and attention needed for emotional development. We have physical neglect, not providing the physical environment needed for development. So maybe withholding food or doctor care. Yes, that could be a traumatic experience because we're missing things that we should be paying attention to. Then we have dysfunctional household. So living in a home with domestic violence, watching someone being hit, threatened, stabbed, shot. That traumatic experience that sometimes we don't feel as traumatic, sometimes becomes a norm and we think that's what's supposed to happen. Friends, it's not. We have mental illness of a family member that threatens suicide. They're depressed, schizophrenic, or bipolar disorder. We have substance abuse in a home where there's a drug user or alcoholic family member. We have parental separation or divorce. There's some criminal activity in a home or incarceration of a household member. All of these different areas can be traumatic experiences. And in that, we want to be able to talk to somebody about it because it could be overwhelming. I do some anger management groups and I was talking with a young man and I was asking what are some stressors for you? What causes you to be angry? He was like, when school gets overwhelming. He actually said overwhelming a couple of times. And when things become overwhelming, you feel like it's unbearable because there are two types of stress. We have a positive stress and we have a negative stress. So with the positive stress, that works to challenge us. It's like if I get stressed, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to work this bill out. It's going to be amazing. But then that overwhelming side could be if I am working and that dollar still ain't adding up, I can't make 15 cents, out of that dollar or a dollar out of the 15 cents. It can be overwhelming and challenging. If you feel like doors keep closing in your face, that could be overwhelming and challenging. And it could be a traumatic experience because you feel like you're doing everything that's possible for you to be trying to do and it still ain't working. Have you ever been there, friends? These are natural occurrences that do happen from a young on up to older because life continues to life and we want to be mindful that these things happen. One of my favorite quotes are come from Cinderella: have courage and be kind, right? And in being kind is because we never know what somebody else is going through. I can have a bad day, but I'm still trying to put a smile on somebody else's face. But then I also have to come back to myself and process those feelings and thoughts that I had because it stinks sometimes. It's not good to go through those different experiences, right? But if I can help somebody else, I have to then be able to put positivity back into me. And when I was saying about that, emotional abuse, we could do that to ourselves. Sometimes we're doubting ourselves. Last week, we talked about the imposter syndrome, where we feel like we're not even qualified or capable to do things. Friends, let's not belittle ourselves. We are able to do amazing things when we put our mind to it. And then we find out maybe that's not for me. I thought I could do it, but I really don't like that. And that's okay too. But we don't have to abuse ourselves, neglect ourselves, or downplay ourselves because we're not able to do that. We're all gifted to do so many different things. We just have to find our niche. And when we find our lane, it helps us to thrive in it as we go forth in what it is that we're doing. Okay? Okay. So one of the questions was one at what age can trauma begin? Trauma can begin when you're in the womb. If you ever heard when someone's pregnant and they hear different things that are going on, they can, hear all those things, feel those things as the mom goes through that process. So trauma can begin before you're born. Once you're born into a situation, and if it's still traumatic or different things are happening where mom is doing the best she can, dad is doing the best he can, grandma, foster parent, whoever is taking that child in, doing the best they can, the hope is that the services that have been put in place, social workers, counselors, therapists, are out there doing their due diligence to work to support. But guess what? You being a friendly neighbor can support as well. Could you say, hey, baby, I've been there before too. How can I help and support you? The hope is that when we have experienced some things, that we then look at somebody else and say, how can I help them to not have to go through what I went through? There are some times that I have a bad experience with a person, place, or thing, and my wish for the next person is just that their experience is better than mine. Now, if their experience continues to be bad, then that person, place, or thing may need to do some professional development and things of that sort to better themselves. But my hope is always that somebody else's experience is better than mine. So in that, if we reach one, teach one, help one, we're making the world a better place. We're healing the world, letting them know that people do care about their well-being. We are concerned about where they're going beyond today. I saw the meme of a young lady that's going around. She's saying, hey, excuse me, sir, you're too handsome to not be smiling. And it brings such a big smile to the gentlemen's faces. And then that kind of like gives them a good day. It's kind of like for the ladies. If you're just walking around and things that sort of somebody walks up and say, you're gorgeous. I get an extra pep in myself. You can't tell me nothing. Now, I already knew I was gorgeous because you got to know you're gorgeous for yourself, okay? But that ain't easy all the time either, depending on situations that you've been in, if we're honest. But when we hear these things, where we're encouraged of these things, it helps us to know, wait, there is a brighter day. There is a light at the end of this tunnel that seems to be frustrating right now. But if I keep on going and keep on going, I can make it. I heard someone else say that when you receive compliments, they're compliments from God. And I believe that because sometimes I'll have a bad day where I'll be like, oh, maybe this isn't right. And somebody will come along and be spot on that don't know me, that don't know nothing that's going on, and they'll encourage and inspire me. And again, because of traumatic experiences that we've been in, if we had somebody that was downplaying us, belittling us, making us feel like dirt, making us feel like scum, to hear somebody uplift us, it's a new battle, right? One side of the battle is just accepting it, embracing it, and claiming it for your life. But the other part sometimes is, do they mean it? Are they talking about me? Could it be me? And friends, if we don't get to the root of those things and really process through those things, we could be in a world of circles, confused because we don't know how to get out of that holding pattern. But we want to be able to receive the good that people are giving us, but also judging and navigating, because sometimes people try to get over on us as well, right? Because if they say, oh, you was this, you was that, it was like, all right, what you want? All right, we still want to be discerning to know what people's motives are. But sometimes when people are saying things, they're just really being nice. They're like, you can't be friends with a guy or a girl because they're going to think that you want them. It is possible to just be friends. It is possible to just be kind. So again, evaluate what that is. But the hope is that the experiences that we've been through, we can help somebody else to not have to go through that same situation again. So another thing, in thinking of trauma, it could be health issues, right? So if your family has some generational things that go on, things that sort, that could be traumatic for you because you're wondering, when is it going to hit you? When is it going to come to your house, right? So in that, for health issues, I encourage you all to go to the doctor, because we talked about physical neglect as well. If we're not going to the doctor, getting things checked out, that could cause some trauma within our bodies. One, because something is going against the grain of how we were created. So when you get to go to the doctor for that physical, when you go to that doctor for the test, as we had last month with Rachel and Sharon, how it took her 3 doctors to finally find out what was really going on. The first doctor was looking at her a little funny. The second doctor diagnosed what it was, but it wasn't to the third doctor that they really took action to find out what was going on and see what next steps they should do. And they did surgery and it worked out amazing. She was then able to carry a baby and have a baby. So friends, for the health issues, we want to go to the doctor. If you feel that that doctor is off, find another doctor. Okay. If you go to the counselor, you feel like they're off and it just doesn't click, find another counselor. Let me also talk about this too. There is a time that you might connect with somebody and you feel like you just keep bumping heads, bumping heads, bumping heads. There will be a little bump head, but if it's a bump head that you just feel like, no, I can't do it, by all means, find somebody else. But you also want somebody to challenge you that's not just going to say, okay, okay. I know you're paying them, your insurance are out of pocket, but you want to make sure you're getting the best bang for your buck and that when you're going, progress is happening, changes are happening, because if nothing changes, then nothing changes. If you're just going to keep on saying, yes, that's good, and all those different things, friends, sometimes it's not good. You know, you go to the doctor and they tell you that you're obese. You got to do something different. And I know you may not want to hear it, but sometimes we do fall in those categories, but you have to do your pieces to get out of that. So health issues, it may be fear inducing, it may be trauma inducing, it may be a whole bunch of feelings and emotions coming with it. Can't sleep, can't eat. You want to make sure you're going to the doctor to get that checked out, okay? Because as you get it checked out, you find out early on, okay? Addictions. If you have any addictions, that could be traumatic in the family. If someone was drinking a lot, you might say, I don't want to drink because that could run in me. I know several people have said, drinking wasn't good in my family, so I stay away from it. You may feel your tolerance is good, but sometimes it might not be. And we never want to have a moment where we drank too much and we had a blackout and we couldn't control ourselves and we found ourselves in a situation that was beyond our control. So it's already traumatic. But then to not have control in that situation, even worse. And then when other authorities get involved, that can be more stress producing. So friends, with addiction, being able to really level out what it is that you're doing, being mindful of your intake. Yes, you say that you got a good tolerance, but who are you around when you have this good tolerance? Are you around friends that you really trust? Are you around people that you don't know? And then also watching your glasses, because we know, like, if you go out, people try to slip you things. So again, that could be a traumatic experience. Another thought that comes to mind with this is that sometimes things happen out of your control, and then you do the who, what, when, shoulda, coulda, winners. I don't want you to get into the cycle of blaming yourself. Life does happen, and sometimes it does not happen as we hope it should. But with that trauma being real, so is the survival of that traumatic experience, okay? Relationships, friendships, breakups can be a traumatic experience. I thought I was going to be with him for the rest of my life. I thought she was the S of my Ugga and we was going to booger. I don't know where they came from, but you get what I'm saying, right? That can be a traumatic experience. I was watching an episode last week of Blended Fab. I hope you checked out our new podcast. And she was sharing how she was hesitant at times to let new potential significant others meet her son. Guess what, friends? When you have a breakup and you have children and the children get to know that person, they go through a breakup too when it doesn't work out. Okay. And that could be a traumatic experience. It's like, he's just not acting right. She's not acting right, because they also were connected to that relationship. And that too can be a traumatic experience. How it ended, if you didn't think that it should have ended, if you wanted it to end, sometimes too that could be traumatic because you get so used to having that person around. So friends, relationships, being able to really process through those, how you feel, and not jumping from one to the next, 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 without really evaluating what went wrong. What could I have done differently? How can I speak up for myself? There's a difference of being assertive and being aggressive. Assertive, I'm speaking up for myself. Aggressive, I'll be a little more physical, a little more demanding. And you have to find the balance in between, not saying being passive aggressive or passive assertive and things of that sort. Speaking up for yourself when you need to speak up for yourself. Parenting could be a traumatic experience because based on how you were raised, things change, right? So again, a lot of different things can lead us down traumatic experience. And if you ever had a traumatic experience or think something is a traumatic experience, drop it in the comments so we can check it out. Okay. Okay. So, how do we get help? Again, by first acknowledging that something is off. And when we acknowledge that something is off, we then talk to somebody and find out what's going on, how I can get support in that area. I was talking to, or I was watching a show actually. I watch some shows, and sometimes I have my therapy, social work eye on to just learn the different pieces, because being able to see it in action is amazing. We could watch a show and be like, that's a red flag. Oh, that ain't right. Oh, that's a good Savannah. He's a good man. Oh, no, that's bad. But then when it's right in front of our faces, friends, we miss it. It looks like it's amazing, and it's a whole circus going on. It's red flags, it's blue flags, it's green flags, it's yellow flags. So we want to be aware of what is going on. So when we first acknowledge what is happening, we then want to find the pieces to help us to get through. And if you don't know what those pieces are, always the inbox away where you can reach out. Hey, this is what's happening. How can I get support? I was talking to someone and they were sharing how they have like a shared custody situation going on. And they say, I try to just be, a little bit more coaxing, a little bit more nice. I said, is that a good service or a disservice? Well, it's a service because it's helping, keep peace and things, but it's a disservice because then they'll always expect it. And that is very true. If you're doing a co-parenting situation or split custody situations, you still want to be able to have the structure in your household, because when they go out, you want to know that they are able to handle the things that's going to come across their way. They're going to be able to have emotional intelligence to know when they're not feeling good. They're going to be able to come back and speak up to let you know when things didn't go well while they were away. But again, we want to make sure that we're equipping them for what it is that they need. Okay, so what has brought me joy in being a social worker, therapist, helper of people, being able to help people? It's been, I don't know how many years it's been. For sure, it's been over 15 years for sure. I'm not a day over 21. I'm telling the story. But it's a pleasure to be able to connect people with resources, to let them know that they are not alone. I've seen some things, I've experienced some things that were not always great, but somehow I still would try to keep positivity. And if I'm honest, that's not always easy. I was watching a video and a guy was sharing how, being positive, sometimes those people get on his nerves. He said, because sometimes things are absolutely pissy, absolutely poopy. He said the other words and things that sort. And guess what? That is very true. But if I choose to only focus on the negative of life, how can I see the light? There are some lights. And though those big things, those bad things sometimes seem to be so big, guess what, friends? They're really not that big. The bigger things are more amazing. Being able to live to see another day, being able to try again, being able to have a job is a blessing that so many take for granted. Being able to have a roof over our head, clothes on our back, food on our table, those are blessings, right? And we want to be able to see the sunshine of it. Now, there's some people that have fallen on hard times, and we want to be of support to connect them with resources, but they also have to be open to those resources. Because what happens too, as I said, trauma experience could become normal. So being homeless for some is like, oh, this is just a norm. This is good for me. This is where I want to be. And we want to respect their wishes and things, but we still can have some resources available to share with them if that support is needed. Let me see. So, traumatic experience, trauma is real. I do encourage again that if you find yourself with any of those pieces, that you do reach out to get some support from others, because others are around and willing and able to help you through this thing called life. That's the blessing of being of having social workers. I was talking to someone, and he was sharing how he wanted to go to school for psychology and how he wants to be able to be a face and represent the Black and Brown community, and it's so needed. And I get that everybody doesn't want to go to school. And for some social work gigs or some resource gigs, you don't have to necessarily get a college degree. But just being able to help somebody, guess what? You could do that without a degree by just being nice to somebody, being kind to somebody, let somebody know, hey, you're doing amazing. I saw a young lady on a train the other day on my way to work, and she had two little boys, and they were sitting down, but they were just so enamored by her. They were hugging on her, telling her how they loved her. She's hugging back, making sure they look good as they prepare for their day. And my heart was just welling up. I said, Mom, you're doing a good job. They may get on your nerves sometimes. You may be ready to throw in the towel a couple of times, but you are doing a good job. They are loved. They are well taken care of. And the fruits of your labor does go show off at the end when they get around people they, respectable and things of that sort. And their life is still happy for them because they still have their path. But knowing that you're doing your part today helps them tomorrow. Why? Because somebody said, I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Friends, we got a lot of teaching to do because these babies today is wilding out just a little bit. But we want to be able to show them that there is a better way. Okay, so I think that's all I wanted to talk about. I hope that you did enjoy. I didn't see too many comments in the comment, but again, always drop a note down there. Actually, let me tell the story. I didn't go over there. Let me see what she said. What she said. It's okay to get a second opinion. Absolutely. If ever you are in need of support, it is okay to get a second opinion. Sometimes you got to get a second opinion on what you thought was the only opinion. Because I could go on WebMD and kill myself a couple times. Don't trust WebMD, friends. I mean, trust it, but go to the actual professional because there are other factors sometimes involved in that. Friends, I thank you for tuning in with me for this little bit of time that we had. Next week, do be sure to join us as we will have George Turner for Good Vibes. It's going to be good. I do want to share a little bit about Blended Fab. Again, I did share that Blended Fab is our new podcast. Season 1 is out. A new episode drops this Thursday. Los and Shar. I'm going to share a clip of that so you can see it. You head over to YouTube and search Chozen Counselors where you can check it out. So, hey, let's check it out. What's coming up next?
Check out this snippet from our next episode.
Is my husband's other woman. And it may sound crazy, but I don't mean that like they dealing with each other on a romantic level. But the man that he is, he's never going to see her in a bad situation because he's never going to see his kids in a bad situation. So I had to realize that if she calls him and there's something going on, it's his job to make sure that his kids is good, that their home situation when they're with her is as good as it is when they're with us.
Friends, it's going to be good. So make sure that you tune in. We have been having a good time over on YouTube on Thursdays at 8 p.m. It's always something amazing going on. And friends, again, if you can, be sure to tune in. It is really, really good. We talk about all things relationships. As you heard, she was sharing about her blended family. Her husband has children. She had another child from a previous relationship and how they worked to bring that together. Now, was it easy? It was a piece of cake. I'm telling the story. The water even went down the wrong pipe. It was like, Jennifer, stop it. You're telling the story. It was not a piece of cake, but they did make it happen. And friends, you want to turn in and hear from their story of how they did. Oh, goodness. Don't forget our quote of the day. Trauma is a fact of life. It does not, however, have to be a life sentence. Friends, whatever it is you're going through, it does not have to be a life sentence. There is another way. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, but you have to be confident and bold enough to speak up for yourself to get the support that's needed because you don't have to do this alone. All right? Don't forget our Black History Fact of the week, because we'll have another one next week. Black History Month. Ethel Waters, born in Chester, PA, an American singer and actress who frequently performed jazz, swing, and pop music on the Broadway stage and in concerts. She began her career in the 1920s singing blues. Her notable recordings include Stormy Weather. Waters was the second African American to be nominated for an Academy Award and the first African American to start on her own television show, and the first African American woman to be nominated for a Primetime Emmy Award. Ethel Waters. Now, friends, again, I was excited to hear her finding out that she had her own show. She was the first one to have a show. Look at me with Jen Cares. I thank you again for tuning in. Friends, I do love and appreciate each and every one of you. I hope that you have an amazing week, that you don't give up on you, that even though trauma is real, it does not have to be a life sentence. Reach out if you need support. Again, always an inbox away. Always excited to connect you with a resource. Why? Because we bring the community to you. Again, join us next week as we will have George Turner for Good Vibes. Until next time, I do love you all for real. Good night.
Friends, we thank you for joining Jen Cares this week. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Unable to watch us live? Be sure to find us on your favorite podcast platform. You can also visit our website, chozencounselors.com. That's Chozen with a Z, to stay in the know and most of all, never miss a show. If you found value in this show, we'd appreciate you sharing it with a friend. Most of all, be sure to tune in for our next episode as we specialize in bringing the community to you.